So I want to preface this by saying I don't have a face cam, so sorry about that. No camera of the wheel that I'm using, but this is specifically for the Thrustmaster T80 because there was no tutorial for this online on how to do this. First of all, if you're going to buy a wheel for Forza Horizon 5, check their support website because the T80 is not supported on there because it's also for PS4 and 5. So only PC and Xbox wheels will work with Forza Horizon 5 and 4 as well. I'm pretty sure. But again, this is specifically for 5 and the Thrustmaster T80. So as the T80 is not supported with 5, you're going to have to download an emulator. I don't know, I can't speak on any others, but I know that Forza EmuWheel works really well. And there's actually a pretty standard setup for this for any wheel, but there's a couple of problems with the T80 and my game specifically that I wanted to sort of show and see if other people had them, and then show you how to fix them if you do. First, check out their setup guide and download the VJoy device drivers from it. You're going to need that. And then, you can learn about what some questions that you may have about EmuWheel. But once you download those drivers, you also want to go back and hit download Forza EmuWheel. That'll give you a zip file for it. So I have unzipped the zip file for Forza EmuWheel, and you can see all of these files come with it, except for configuration.json. You won't have that yet, so don't worry about if you don't have that one. But first, go through your VJoy setup, and once you've set up your VJoy, it's like a setup.exe application, pretty standard. Type into your search bar configure, and configure VJoy should come up. You should hit yes, and then after you do that, this will let you configure any of the devices you have, so your wheels. Now, I'm new to sim racing myself, so I'm not sure what all of these do, but again, this instruction is pretty standard for any wheel that you want to use. So just follow all the settings here, everything on, POVs on 1, your hat switch on 4 directions, number of buttons at 128. Make sure you hit apply, and then you hit enable VJoy, and then you can just close out of this. And now what you want to do is you want to go into this folder here called registry, and run that file there, and that should put your VJoy into the registry. Make sure you do that before anything else, because that will determine, that's a pretty important step, and nothing will work without that. And then go to your configurator.exe file. That'll allow you to configure all your buttons here. So here's a couple of issues that the T80 had for me. So if I hit set here, I haven't done anything to my wheel. Let's hit clear and hit set again. I'm not touching my wheel at all, and it's setting the steering to the, this is actually correct, it's setting the steering to the steering wheel. But let's say I wanted to set my throttle to one of my pedals. If I hit set, I haven't touched anything, I haven't even touched the throttle, and this message has come up. It's trying to double bind my steering. But what you want to do here is you want to hit OK. And then once you set your steering, you want to set your steering properly. That should just do it automatically. For your throttle and your brake and everything else that you want to set, just make sure you hit set and push your throttle almost at the exact same time. So have your throttle set, push down. Yeah, so have your throttle push down, and then your brake too. Have your brake push down all the way, and then set your brake. So push it down and then hit the set button. Your D-pad, press any direction on it and it'll set it. I'm just going to clear all of these values because I already have mine. And then the other gimmick here is Forza creates profiles for your wheel settings, and it has a couple profiles that it creates. But the problem with the profiles is there's a certain number of buttons that are mandatory, that are required for you to bind to something in the game. So there's a couple bindings that you have to bind to buttons, otherwise the game won't physically won't let you use the wheel. So what you want to do here is you want to go to the buttons, this side menu here, and you want to hit set, and you want to set as many of these as you can. I did A, B, X, Y, and all the way through 12. And you want to bind those to as many of your controller or your wheel buttons as you can. Now the problem here is if I hit A, let's say I want to bind something to A, and I hit the button to bind, it doesn't do anything. So I'm not exactly sure how this works. It's very gimmicky still that I'm trying. I think it's because it detects my wheel moving maybe a little bit or something like that. But what you want to do is you really want to keep pressing this button until eventually, just make sure nothing else is moving, and you want to keep pressing the button that you want to bind, and then eventually it'll bind. And then sometimes what happens is if I try to bind another one, it'll also bind it to A for some reason, I don't know. But just keep binding as many buttons as you can, and keep redoing it if it binds wrong or double binds to something. Then after you're done with that, you want to select this and hit clear if you want to clear anything. After you're done with that, you're going to hit save config. I already have mine saved, so I don't have to worry about hitting this. But once you hit save config, you just want to save it. It'll say OK. And now the last thing you have to do is these two files here, Forza EmuWheel.exe and Hush.exe, you have to run them every time you open your game. They're background files, so they won't modify anything graphically or anything like that. But you want to hit Forza EmuWheel.exe. You'll get a bunch of debugs here, and then you'll say it'll connect to your Thrustmaster T80, USB, and everything. And then after you're done with that, it'll say Forza EmuWheel is ready to start. You hit start, it's running, and then you just minimize that. Don't close it, just minimize it. And then Hush, you want to hit yes on this, and what this will do when you hit yes on the prompt that comes up is it will say correct operation of Forza EmuWheel requires muting devices that are used with this software. Muting only affects your Forza games, and then that basically means that it doesn't want to double detect your wheel, your steering wheel that you're using. So just hit mute here, and then when you're done, you can hit unmute, and this won't affect anything else on your computer, just Forza 5. And then again, just minimize this, close out of your files, minimize all that, and now it's time to open Forza Horizon 5. Okay, so now you're in Forza Horizon 5. This is what you'll see when you start the game. Nice little loading screen. What you want to do here is you want to hit, instead of start game, you're going to hit X on your keyboard for accessibility or settings. And then what you're going to go do here is controls, and then change input mapping. Now you're going to want to move this menu to wheel, or just click on wheel. Now here's another gimmick with my game specifically. Maybe it was because of the wheel I was using, I don't know. But it won't show your profile. This thing that says layout will just be blank, and you can't do anything with your bindings. So either hover over this or just hover up here and then hit the arrow keys on your keyboard a couple times. Now the last gimmick that I found was a lot of other wheels that people use with EmuWheel. Instead of saying undefined here, it'll actually say a button on your wheel, and then you can bind it, pretty quickly. But for mine, on my custom profile, mine would just say undefined. If you were to look here, they just say undefined, and these say wheel mapping required, which means that one of your buttons on your wheel has to be mapped to something here, which I think is pretty stupid because I've never used Anna or Forza Link ever, or even the pause button. I just use my keyboard for that. But make sure that you bind every button to something here. These don't require multiple clicks, these will bind in one click, but bind at least one button to everything here, and then a couple other useful things, like if you have shifters, I have shifters, your shift down and shift up, your horn button if you want to do that. But make sure you can bind everything here, and once you've bound everything here, I'm just going to select my actual profile here. It'll look something like this, and then my shifters and everything, and then you want to hit save once you're done, and then back again, and then you'll see start here, but I'm just gonna continue because I've already started. Alright, and now that you're in Forza, the first, the little intro sequence should play if it's your first time, and you can start driving your cars using your wheels and pedals. It's going to be a little gimmicky at first, especially with the T80. Like I've found is a lot harder than some other wheels, but something you can do that is pretty good to do, especially if your cars you find are spinning out a lot. You can go to settings and then advanced controls, and then you can set your steering axis dead zones or any other dead zones that you want to set here, and you can set the outside and inside dead zone. The dead zone is the higher you keep your outside dead zone, the less steering input is recognized. So I mean, that's literally what it says in the description. And then your inside, you need more steering before your car can begin to turn. So that's another useful thing that I fiddled with a little bit to set my steering parameters just to make it easier on me. And then obviously I have a lot of assists on because I'm not very good at it and I'm pretty new to sim racing in and of itself. And then yeah, everything after you do that should be working just fine. If you want to rebind anything, just make sure that key is on your steering wheel is bound to something in the configurator, and then after that's bound, you can just bind it to whatever you want in the game, and you should be good to go. But yeah, that's all. Again, I just wanted to make this because I didn't see anything for a T80 specifically online, and it's a pretty gimmicky wheel I've found in a lot of games. But I'm glad I could make this just to show it off because I've seen some other people have problems and didn't get answers. But yeah, so if anyone else knows anything about your force feedback system for the wheel or anything like that, definitely put it in the comments. And